They arrived on a Tuesday. We remember that part clearly. The day was ordinary in every way. Then the sky changed forever. Perfect shapes hung in the atmosphere. They were silent and immense. They did not burn or roar. They simply appeared. Flawless geometry against the blue. For 3 days, we did nothing but stare. Our leaders debated and our experts guessed. Were they gods or messengers? Their ships were art, too perfect to be weapons. We sent greetings in 1,000 languages. We broadcast music and mathematics. We offered peace with open hands. They did not answer our calls. They did not move from their positions. They just waited with an impossible patience. Then, on the 4th day, they answered. The answer was not a word. It was a beam of pure, white light. It touched the capital city of our world. The city became a crater of glass. That was the moment we knew. They were not gods. They were reapers. They had come to harvest us. And their silence was the most terrifying sound of all. We had spent our lives looking to the stars. We never imagined what was looking back. Our fleets were our pride. They were gleaming cities of metal and fire. We had built them to defend our homes. We believed they were invincible. We sent them to meet the invaders. Our best captains led the charge. Hope was a fire in our hearts. The void lit up with our fury. Thousands of plasma torpedoes raced forward. Lasers painted the enemy ships with light. Our cannons roared defiance into the silence. It was the greatest show of force in our history. It was a beautiful, pointless display. The enemy ships did not move. They did not raise shields or return fire. Our weapons struck their perfect hulls, and then our weapons simply ceased to exist. They vanished without a flash or sound. They were unmade at the point of contact. Our fury meant less than nothing. Their response was quiet and terrible. Thin lines of energy reached out. They touched our dreadnoughts and cruisers. Our ships did not explode. They fell apart like toys. The invaders did not even seem to notice the fight. They were swatting insects from the air. We ran. There was no other choice. To stay was to be erased. We fled to the dark, forgotten places. We hid in hollowed asteroids. We dove into the atmospheres of gas giants. We sought refuge in nebulae that scrambled sensors. We became ghosts in our own backyard. They were methodical in their work. They moved from one star system to the next. They drained suns of their energy. They cracked planets for their resources. We watched from our hiding spots. We saw our worlds go dark one by one. Our empire was being dismantled. They were not angry or hateful. They were efficient, like cosmic gardeners. They cleared away the weeds. We were the weeds. This cold, indifferent approach was terrifying. It was worse than any rage. We were not even worthy of their notice. Our resistance was broken. Our government was a memory. We were a scattered, hunted species. All we had left was the darkness, and the endless, silent watch as they consumed everything we had ever built. Hope was a luxury we could no longer afford. A single drone was our only prize. It was a scout that strayed too close. It wandered into an old minefield. We captured its wreckage before it self-destructed. We pulled its data core from the ruin. It was a tiny victory in a lost war. A single drop of water in a burning desert. Our best minds gathered around the data. They worked in a cramped, hidden laboratory. They sifted through lines of alien code. They searched for a weapon. They searched for a weakness. They expected to find blueprints for cannons or shields. They found something else entirely. There was no concept of damage. There was no file for defeat. The code was perfect and logical. It described a universe of pure mathematics. But there was a missing variable. It was a hole in their understanding of reality. They knew death only as a state of non-function. They did not understand suffering. They could not process agony or fear. They knew how to end a life. They had no idea what it felt like to hurt. The thought was so alien, so profound, a flaw not in their steel, but in their spirit. If you can call it a spirit, we could not break their ships. Their hulls were too strong for our weapons. We could not outrun their fleets. Their engines bent the fabric of space. We were outmatched in every physical way. A new plan began to form. It was a dark and desperate strategy. If we could not destroy their bodies, we would have to break their minds. The idea felt wrong, a violation. It was a weapon we had never considered. But survival demanded new thinking. We had to abandon our old rules of war. We had to embrace a terrible new art. The plan was simple and monstrous. We would weaponize feeling. We would teach the unfeeling how to feel. We would introduce them to our oldest companions. We would introduce them to pain and to terror. We had plenty of both to share. It was our one remaining resource. Our first test was on a lone cruiser. It was patrolling the edge of the Orion sector. It moved with its usual perfect grace. Its crew were likely calm and focused. They were performing their duties. They had no idea what was coming. They were about to receive their first lesson. We did not fire a missile. We sent a signal. It was a focused psychic broadcast. We had synthesized the raw emotion of fear. We used the brain scans of dying soldiers. We amplified their final, terrified moments. We aimed this ghost at the enemy ship. The cruiser stopped its patrol. Its flawless engines sputtered. Its lights flickered erratically. We watched from a cloaked observation post. The ship began to drift aimlessly. It was like watching a living thing have a seizure. The perfect machine was broken. We had tapped into their communications. We heard them for the first time. It was not speech. It was a chorus of pure, confused panic. They had no words for what they were feeling. It was a new and agonizing sensation. We had given them the gift of nightmares. We had not destroyed the ship. We had driven it mad. The effect began to spread. The terror we broadcast was contagious. The mad crew sent distress calls. They infected other ships with their new feeling. Their perfect formations began to falter. Ships veered off course without reason. Fleets stopped their advance, confused. They did not understand what was happening. Was it a virus? A system malfunction? They ran diagnostics on their perfect machines. But the problem was not in the machine. The problem was the new ghost inside it. The ghost of fear we had created. We saw it on the main strategic display. The relentless red tide of their advance slowed. It wavered, and then it stopped. For the first time in years, they hesitated. Their unity was cracking. Their cold logic was being drowned. It was being drowned in a sea of primal dread. It was working better than we had dreamed. They were not prepared for this kind of attack. It bypassed their shields and their armor. It went straight for their minds. And their minds were completely defenseless. They had built a perfect house with no locks on the doors. We had to become monsters to fight monsters. The old ways of soldiering were useless now. We needed a new kind of warrior. We needed artists of cruelty. We established training centers in deep space. The work done there was a necessary evil. We told ourselves that every day. Our soldiers no longer trained with rifles. They trained in meditation chambers. They learned to focus their own emotions. They learned to project grief, despair, and rage. They became psychic weapons. They became living transmitters of misery. It was a horrible thing to ask of them. We took our brightest and our most empathetic. We turned their greatest strengths into weapons. We taught them how to recall their worst memories, the loss of a loved one, the terror of a collapsing city. We harnessed that agony. We refined it. We aimed it at our enemy. The toll on our own people was immense. Many went mad from the process. They were haunted by the feelings they wielded. We built sanctuaries for these broken soldiers. We called them heroes. But we knew what we had made them into. We had forged new monsters to save ourselves. Our weapons were no longer made of steel. They were made of sorrow. Our arsenals were not filled with bombs. They were filled with archives of recorded pain. We broadcast the final thoughts of the fallen. We sent echoes of every life they had extinguished. We turned their own atrocities against them. We called this new weapon the Ghost. It was an invisible, silent killer. It moved at the speed of thought. It could not be stopped by any physical barrier. It infected their networks, their ships, their minds. It was the whisper of our collective grief, a ghost haunting their perfect machine. They could not fight what they could not see. They fired their weapons at empty space. They purged their data streams. But the ghost was not in their systems. It was in them, a seed of horror we had planted. It was growing in the fertile soil of their unfeeling minds. Their perfect empire was built on logic. This new input was illogical. This weapon of pure emotion was a paradox. And it was breaking them from the inside out. We were no longer fighting ships. We were fighting a philosophy, and our weapon was the truth of suffering. The cracks appeared in their unity. Before, they were a single mind, a unified purpose driving them forward. Now, they were a chorus of confused voices. We listened to their internal communications. They were arguing for the first time. Their perfect harmony was gone. Some of them wanted to flee. They broadcast messages of pure terror. They described the new feeling, the ghost. They begged their leaders to turn back. They said this galaxy was cursed. They said it was haunted by angry spirits. They were not entirely wrong. Others were defiant. They could not accept this new reality. They believed it was a trick, a complex illusion. They accused the fearful ones of weakness. They argued for pushing forward. They wanted to find the source of the signal and destroy it. This led to conflict. For the first time, we saw them fight each other. Two of their cruisers opened fire on one another. One was trying to retreat. The other was trying to force it to advance. They destroyed each other in a brief, brilliant flash. Their perfect logic had turned on itself. We had not just given them fear. We had given them discord. It was time for our final act. We had tested our weapon. We had seen its effect. We had fractured their unity. Now we had to deliver the final blow. It would not be a bomb to kill a planet. It would be something far more ambitious. Something that would end the war in a single moment. We called it the cacophony device. It was not a weapon in the traditional sense. It was a massive, galaxy-wide transmitter. It was powered by a captured star. Its purpose was not to kill. Its purpose was to broadcast a single, terrible truth. We had prepared for this for years. We had gathered the psychic echoes of every human they had killed, every man, woman, and child. Billions of moments of death. The shock, the pain, the terror, the loss. We had compressed it all into one signal. A monument of agony. A final, dreadful message. Our chief engineer gave the final command. Her face was grim, her hand steady. She pressed the activation key. Across the galaxy, the device fired. It was a silent, invisible wave of pure feeling. the accumulated suffering of our entire species, broadcast as one voice, one final, desperate scream into the void. The effect was instantaneous, and it was absolute. Across 100 star systems, their fleet stopped. Every single ship, from the smallest scout to the largest harvester, went dark. They ceased all movement. They stopped their engines. They stopped their transmissions. They just floated, silent and dead in the void. We watched from our command centers. We saw the red lights on our maps wink out. The relentless advance was over. They were paralyzed. They were catatonic. We had not just shown them pain. We had drowned them in an ocean of it. An ocean of our making. The signal was overwhelming. Their minds, so new to feeling, could not process it. They were trapped in a feedback loop of our agony, experiencing billions of deaths at once, over and over again. They were not dead. We had given them a fate far worse. We had given them an eternity of suffering. The war was over. We had won. Silence filled our command centers. But it was not the silence of celebration. No one cheered. No one embraced. We just stared at the displays. We stared at the silent, drifting fleets of our enemy. And we felt nothing but a cold, hollow emptiness. We had survived against all odds. We had faced gods, and we had made them kneel. We looked at our hands, the hands that built the device, the hands that pushed the button. We saw our reflections in the dark screens, and we did not recognize the faces staring back at us. Victory had a bitter, metallic taste. It tasted like ashes in our mouths. We had saved our species. But what had we become in the process? We had used their own cold logic against them. We had calculated the exact amount of pain needed to break them. We had become the efficient, methodical ones. Now, a new quiet fills the galaxy. It is not their silence. It is ours. They hide from us now. Their broken fleets drift in the deep black between galaxies. They are terrified of us. They tell stories of the species that weaponized sorrow, the species that taught them how to hurt. We are the new nightmare in the void. Other star-faring races watch us from a distance. They are cautious. They are afraid. They know what we did to the invaders. They know what we are capable of. We won our safety at the cost of our soul. We are feared. And we are utterly alone. We are the pain. That is our legacy. We set out to save our homes and our children. We ended up creating a new kind of hell. We taught the unfeeling how to suffer. And now we are the only ones left. Alone with the silence. Alone with the memory of their first and final scream. Alone with what we have become.